You have lots of apps on your phone, a streaming service with variety of shows, a podcast for every topic on Earth, and you're still bored right now. So here's a question nobody asks. What did humans do when they were bored? 100,000 years ago? No phones, no books, no fire to scroll through. Just a person, sitting there, with nothing to do. The answer is stranger than you think. It explains why you make art, why you believe in things, why you gossip about your coworkers, and why your brain feels broken every time you put your phone down. But first, did ancient humans even get bored? Scientists actually argued about this for years. Most people assumed early humans were too busy surviving to be bored, hunting all day, building shelter, no free time at all. They were wrong. In 1966, anthropologist Marshall Solins studied the Kung people of the Kalahari Desert, one of the last groups on Earth still living the way humans lived before agriculture. What he found broke every assumption. They worked 15 to 20 hours a week, not a day, a week. The rest of the time, they rested, they taught. They sat around doing nothing. Solins called them the original affluent society, not because they had money, because they had something richer, time. So the real question isn't whether ancient humans got bored, it's what they did about it. First, they played, and this is where it gets strange. In 2010, archaeologist Francesco D'Erico studied shells found in a cave in South Africa called Blombos Cave. The shells were 75,000 years old. Someone had drilled holes through them and coated them in red paint. They weren't tools. They weren't weapons. They weren't food. They were jewelry. That's the oldest known art in human history, and it came from someone with absolutely nothing else to do. Drilling through a shell with a stone, no metal, no electricity, would have taken hours, maybe days. They did it anyway, because the only other option was staring at a cave wall. Necessity didn't invent art. Boredom did. The same thing happened with music. In 2008, researchers found a flute in a cave in Germany, carved from a vulture bone, with 5 finger holes. It was 40,000 years old. Someone, before cities, before writing, before anything we call civilization, sat down with a bone and invented music. Not to survive, just because they had a free afternoon. Neuroscientist Daniel Levitin argues music may be older than language itself, that our brains were built for rhythm before they were built for words. But boredom didn't just create art, it created something bigger. Imagination. Think about this, you cannot feel bored without understanding time. To be bored, your brain has to know this moment is dragging, and that something better could exist later. Boredom is proof that a brain can imagine a future that isn't real yet. Your dog, waiting by the door, isn't bored. It's just waiting. It has no idea what else could be happening. But a human, sitting by a fire 100,000 years ago with nothing to do, starts to wonder, what if tomorrow's hunt fails? What's that sound outside? What's on the other side of that mountain? What happens when we die? Every religion, every philosophy, every scientific question ever asked started the exact same way. Someone was bored, and their mind wandered off. In 2013, psychologist Sandy Mann ran an experiment. She gave people the most boring task imaginable, copying numbers out of a phone book, and then tested their creativity right after. The bored group crushed everyone else, because boredom forces your brain to make its own entertainment. And left alone, your brain is incredible at that. There's one more thing ancient humans did when they were bored, and it might be the most important one. They taught. Not about hunting, not about food, about each other. Anthropologist Robin Dunbar, the same researcher who discovered human friend groups naturally cap out around 150 people, found that roughly 65% of all human conversation is gossip. Who did what? Who said what? What happened to that guy you both know? That sounds pointless. It wasn't. Dunbar's theory is that language didn't evolve for survival. It evolved for bonding. Before language, primates bonded by grooming each other, picking through fur, one-on-one. But grooming only works on one friend at a time. Language broke that limit. Suddenly you could bond with 3 people, 10, a whole group around a fire, all at once. You could talk about someone who wasn't even there. You could trust people you'd never touched. Civilization didn't start because we needed to coordinate hunts. It started because people were bored around a fire, and started talking about each other. Boredom invented gossip. Gossip invented society. So here's where that leaves us. 75,000 years ago, someone bored made a bead. 40,000 years ago, someone bored made a flute. And somewhere in between, people sitting around fires with nothing to do started asking questions no one could answer. About death, about the sky, about why anything exists at all. Some of those questions became religion. Some became science. Some became art. And some of them became you, lying awake at 2 a.m., phone on your chest, thinking about nothing in particular. Here's the part nobody tells you. Psychologists have a name for what happens when you never let yourself get bored: cognitive overload. When every second is filled with stimulation, your brain never gets to do the one thing it was built to do in the quiet: process, connect, create. There's a part of your brain called the default mode network. It only switches on when you're doing nothing. And it's the exact same network responsible for creativity, self-reflection, and empathy. We spent 300,000 years learning how to fill silence with something meaningful. Then we built the smartphone, and we've been running from silence ever since. But next time you put the phone down and just sit there, and let your mind wander, you're doing the exact same thing that person in the cave was doing. The same thing that made the bead. The same thing that made the flute. The same thing that looked up at the stars and asked why. Boredom didn't hold ancient humans back. It's what made them human. And it might do the same for you if you let it.